So this is my friend Marianne. We've known each other since high school, and we decided to get together today and just play. I invited Archangel Sandalphon through, and Marianne is just going to take some time. She prepared some questions for him, and she's going to ask her questions, and we're just going to see how he responds and what he has to say, and what information we can pull through today. So he is the one that I'm going to be trance channeling in this Q&A, but he wanted me to know and all of you to know that the answers that he is bringing forth are from the collective consciousness, not just him, but he is the representative that we'll be talking with today. So I'm just going to take a second and bring him through and we'll get started. Hello. Nice to
Hello.
see you today. I hear
Mhm.
that you have some questions for me.
Yes, I do. Thank you for connecting with me. I'll begin with my first topic, which is peace on earth. And I guess just overall, I'm wondering if peace on earth, or kind of a golden age, or where truly humans are thriving and getting together or getting along, is this a potential for Earth? Is this a potential for us as we are as a human society?
Well, first, I would like to reflect back to you that has it not already got to that point? Is there not already peace on earth? I feel like what you are referring to is what has been in the conversation lately as far as an ascension process and a place of pure peace on earth. And that is a question that still remains. Nobody knows what is to come to pass, but we all hope that this may be the future that we are working towards. But I would like to reflect back to you that this is already the case in many aspects, that there is already peace on earth, and there is already so much love and wisdom available to all of you. So it is not that it is not possible, it is that we are hoping that this becomes more prevalent in certain areas where there is currently none.
Okay, I, that resonates, and I appreciate that answer. To move into greater peace, especially in those areas where there is not as much peace at this time, um, what is it that is required for us to do to achieve that greater peace on earth in those areas where it is still, let's say, lacking?
Peace within the self. Peace within the self is what leads to peace outside of the self. It all comes back within you. When each individual person makes the choice to feel peace within themselves, and it really comes down to choice, doesn't it? Each individual person must, one, realize that they are not at peace and that peace is something that they desire. And then they must go searching for peace. And the first thing that they do is they go searching for peace outside of themselves. Where can I find it? Is it out there somewhere for me? Right? This is the first, embarking upon the task of finding peace. It must be out there somewhere and I must go find it. And then from that point, it takes some time for them to figure out that it is not working, that they have not been able to yet find peace. And then it becomes the task of, okay, then if it's not out there, then where is it? Where have I not looked yet? And then sometimes that is where the journey ends, is that they do not know where to find it. And then sometimes the journey continues and they decide, oh, yes, there is one more place that I have not looked yet. And then they turn within themselves, and then the journey embarks once more to first uncover what is blocking them from accessing peace. And so it might feel like at that point that they move further away from the peace that they desire. But if they continue to search and they continue to dig and they realize that peace has been available to them all along and that they have to do is access it, that is the point of no return. And then they begin to feel the peace that they desire. And then when they can access the peace within themselves that they have been looking for, and they can feel the peace that they desire, then they project that peace outwards outside of them and show other people the way to find peace. And then from there, it becomes a domino effect, you see. And so in places where there is the perception that there is less peace than is what you would deem to be desirable, it is up to those individuals to begin the search for peace and then to begin the search inside of themselves for peace, for that peace to then be reflected outwards in order for you to identify it as peace. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you. And that is what I've personally believed as well, is that it ultimately begins with each individual human. And as you said, finding that peace within themselves first. And this leads me into my next, let's say, theme or topic, which is forgiveness. And the question specifically is forgiving the world as it is right now essential to manifesting true change upon this planet?
Forgiveness and manifestation. Is that the question, that the two are somehow related?
Yeah, so what I'm getting at here is really that if obviously there are things in the world that we see as humans that we, let's say, don't like, or that we don't agree with, or we perhaps wish could be different, but that there's an aspect of coming to accept that the world simply is as it is right now, and forgiving it for what it is right now to create space and perhaps like love, so that ultimately it can transform into something else more loving, more peaceful, more cohesive, harmonious.
I believe that I understand the question. And I think that the question that you're asking is, in order to manifest the outward desires of peace, love, and commonality amongst humanity that you are desiring to see in the world, that first it must be up to the individual to forgive that it is not that yet.
Yes.
I think that I would like to answer this question with another question, which is, why does this require forgiveness of you? Why does someone else that does not seem to have the capacity to love to the extent that you do require your forgiveness?
It's a good question. It's I suppose also, I guess it's that the things that we resist persist. But once we let certain things go, and perhaps forgive, it doesn't have to be the word forgiveness. It could be simply accepting it as it is, or letting it go and allowing it to exist as it is right now. So as we release kind of our judgments upon the world, that creates space for, because I find that works with us when we accept who we are as we are now. I've seen in my own life how that creates space for true transformation to come in almost through grace instead of efforting or forcing. So I'm just wondering if that works as well on a greater scale, on a greater scale.
I love this question. And what I would like to reflect back to you is that the lack of peace that you see in the world is not necessarily a lack of peace in the world, but is a lack of peace within yourself that you are projecting outside of you onto what you are seeing. Do you see this? The limitation within another is not their limitation. It is within you that you see it as a limitation. And so where you see a lack of peace in the world, perhaps the people in that situation are not feeling a lack of peace. Perhaps for them, they feel just fine. And so it is your interpretation of their lack of peace that is creating that within yourself. Do you see this?
Mm-hmm.
So then the act of forgiveness really requires turning that towards you and asking yourself, where can I forgive that I view their lack of peace as lack of peace within myself? And where can I see their lack of peace as a disruption within my own self and my own lack of peace? Where am I missing peace within myself that I see someone else's lack of peace as something that needs to be changed or fixed or manifested into something else that other than it is? Do you see this? Everybody is on their own journey of what they believe peace to be. And so who am I to believe that someone else's version of peace is not actually peace? There is no one peace. Each one of you has their own interpretation of what peace is and of what love feels like. And when you view someone else's experience as any which way, that is your interpretation of their experience, but that might not be what is true for them. And so the question really becomes, when do each of you feel peace within yourselves and resonate with that as your truth? Someone might feel that they feel peace, but it is not the truth of the matter. The truth is that there is still something missing within themselves that they have not identified yet. But that is not for us to say, it is for them to discover. And so I think the real question becomes, when will each person on this planet be in alignment with their truth? And from that place, discern, am I at peace or not? And it's up to that person to then decide to embark on the journey to find peace for themselves, or create it rather from within. So where can we forgive ourselves for judging someone else's experience as not peaceful or not lovable? And that is where the true question lies. Does that answer your question?
It does. I appreciate the view that, or like the point of view that you've given to this question, and it, I think, leads into what I've also been experiencing or wondering about, is the idea of distraction. It's very easy to get distracted in the world by looking outside ourselves and seeing what we would consider chaos or um, trouble or pain and suffering. And yet the I know that it's important for me to focus within. Like, that's where the power is, that's where the love is, that's where the peace is. Um, so it's speaking to that. I don't know, do you have anything else to say on that topic? I think so many humans do get distracted in this world with what's happening outside because of the news and the social media. It's so easy to get distracted, to get pulled into the drama of the world. And it's so funny. I so deeply want to connect more with my own peace, but I do find myself still being pulled into the drama as well, as if there's perhaps it's exciting. I don't know if it's as simple as that. Um, but at the same time, when I'm in a peaceful state, when I'm within myself, that feels better than anything. So I don't know, do you have any advice for us humans in terms of that topic of being distracted, but coming back to ourselves? Like, how do we perceive that? Do we send it love and peace and come back to ourselves? Are we meant to interact with these realities that we see before us? Like, is this making sense, what I'm kind of getting at?
Makes complete sense, my child. I think what I am hearing is that when you see something outside of yourself that bothers you, that creates fear within you, that frustrates you, the inclination is that that thing must be something different than it is. You see? If that thing is different, if that thing creates a different feeling within me, then I can feel more comfortable within myself and I can more easily access the peace that I desire. But it becomes very difficult to close yourself off from the world around you in order for you to find peace, you see? And when everything in the world is taking you further away from the peace you desire to feel, then it becomes a little bit tricky, where everything outside of me seems to be chaotic. But how do I then separate myself enough from the chaos in order to find peace? But then how do I go through the world that way? How do I avoid everything around me in an attempt to find peace within myself, you see? And I think the question then becomes, how can I see the chaos around me is not chaos? How am I interpreting the chaos around me to be that way? Perhaps the chaos around me is peace in a different perspective. Perhaps the chaos that I see around me are each individual person attempting to find their own version of peace. And it just seems like chaos from the outside because that's how I'm interpreting it. And how can I use that information to help me learn to access my peace regardless of what's going on around me? How can I use this interpretation of the world around me to allow myself to explore what peace really is? Is peace a lack of chaos? Or is peace a different interpretation of it? Are peace and chaos separate ends of the spectrum? Or are they perhaps two different versions of the same thing? Can I feel many different emotions at once and still find peace within it? Or is peace a lack of many different kinds of emotions and it's just one singular one? So I think the question then becomes, how can I explore what peace means to me? How can I shift my interpretation of what peace looks and feels like? How can I look at the world around me and see something other than what I have labeled to be chaos? And then turn within myself and ask myself, can I feel peace in a different way? Can I explore the meaning of peace for myself? And can I use the world around me as a teacher for that? I understand the concern, my child. When you see the world around you and it seems like there's so much suffering, so much pain, so much fear, and all you desire is for that to go away so that we can all live in peace and harmony. But perhaps it is that perspective that is holding you back from finding your own. How can you witness someone else in what you perceive to be suffering and allow that to be okay for them as well as you? How can you separate your own sense of self from what you see outside of you and at the same time allow it to be affected by it and okay? And I think that becomes the human journey, is to go through life and have different experiences from all the different perspectives and all over the spectrum of light and dark, so to speak, and embrace all of it. Because that's why you're here, my child. You're here to experience all of it. And I understand that this desire to search for love and peace feels so almost foreign, but also something that is part of the purpose of being here. But I would like to argue, is it really why you are here? Because you don't have to come here to feel peace and love. You already are peace and love. So you come here to experience all that is not that of what you are, all the while remembering what you are. Because it is simply that you have forgotten. And so the question then becomes, do I have to find peace within myself? Or can I remember that it is already there and I just have to feel it whenever I want to? And when it becomes difficult to tap into that remembering, then maybe it is time to step away from what I foresee as chaos around me. Or can I challenge myself to witness the chaos around me and still feel something different inside of myself? How does that resonate for you?
It definitely resonates. No, that was beautiful. And there are times when I come to a point of such, I guess you could say, peace within myself that I can witness the chaos around me and I am okay. And I, in that moment, can feel that you know, there isn't a sense of, mm, you know, trying to resist it. There's an acceptance there and even a love there for it all. So, but thank you. The way you put it was very, very helpful and very helpful for contemplating that further. So that was a great answer. Thank you. Um, so the next topic I'd like to explore, as it's a little bit of a reality somewhere near my life, is related to disease. And I am wondering if is all disease the manifestation of an energetic, mental, or emotional imbalance?
No. Some disease is predetermined. We come into this life with a path, so to speak, a path that you must walk down. And there are certain checkpoints along the path that you, on a soul level, know are coming. And it has been predetermined to be on that path for you to learn from and grow from, and to be faced with, coming back to our last conversation, to feel the chaos within that experience for all that it is, regardless of whether or not you are able to see and sense and feel peace within it. And so sometimes it is not something that you have manifested per se, but it is something that you chose. There
Mhm.
is, on another level, a degree of dysregulation that can happen within the system. And that this is a byproduct of energetic imbalance, uh, a dissonance within the frequency. I can call it this way, where you all come into this world a clear channel of love. And you go through life and you experience things that are dissonant from this. And you take this in, and this creates an energetic dysregulation within the system, where the energy is no longer flowing in a regulated way. It is flowing with a little bit more chaos, coming back to our last conversation, where the energy is not, it is not formulaic, and there is much disturbance within it. And this disturbance can create dysregulation in the physical body that manifests itself physically in disruptions within the system. And I think that this is what you speak of.
Mhm.
And can this be avoided? Yes. Should it be avoided? Well, that comes down to perspective again.
Mhm.
That comes down to the perspective of, is it within my best interest to go through this life without any problems to work through? Because it is the challenges of your lifetime that create the learning opportunities, which is part of why you are here. And so when it comes to what you call disease within the physical body, I would like to reflect back to you that sometimes it is of your own making and sometimes it is of your own choosing, based on what you desire to take away from the experience. Is it possible to re-regulate the system energetically? Yes. Is it within your best interest to do that? It depends on the lesson you desire to learn and the path that you laid before you. And so it is a little bit more of a complicated answer that I'm giving to you. But in short, sometimes it is predestined and sometimes it is created based on the experience, but it is all for you and being done through you. And there is much to learn regardless of the outcome. Do you have any follow-up questions to that?
Yes, I have one. So from what I understand, our beliefs, our intentions create the reality around us. Is that correct?
Yes.
So do we have the ability to help think someone else into health?
No, you cannot think someone else into health. That person needs to desire to have a different experience for themselves. And what you perceive to be within their best interest might not be within their best interest.
Right.
And so I understand where you're coming from, where you see your loved ones suffering with a disease or a disability that you are perceiving to be causing them suffering, but it is not for you to decide if that is wrong or if they should have a different experience. It is up to them to make that decision. And perhaps the experience they're having is causing them anguish, but perhaps that anguish is the very thing that they desire on a deeper level. You see
Mhm.
this? And this can be
Yes.
very challenging to understand from the human perspective, and I understand that. And so I welcome any more questions on this topic because this is a topic I feel that is not often spoken about because it is a little bit taboo. It is difficult for the human mind to see suffering from a different perspective other than something that just requires to be avoided. But on the deepest, most subconscious level, many of you enjoy suffering. It is true. You
But
enjoy
when you
suffering.
say when you say that we enjoy it, do we enjoy it on a soul level because it forces us
No,
to grow,
you
or do
enjoy it
we
on a
like
human level.
it's
The
like a
the human part of
yeah,
you
okay.
loves to complain,
Yes.
loves to find problems. Where can I look for a problem so that I can solve it and feel so good about that, you see? And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you are not able to see the world around you, it's just perfect the way it is. You create problems for yourself because there's something a little bit uncomfortable about not having any.
It's true.
When you have a problem, you have a focus, you have a purpose, you have destination. When you don't have a problem, when everything is perfect, it feels a little uncomfortable because you don't know what to do with yourself.
That is so true, and that is something I've thought about recently as well. It's almost like if there is such kind of consistent peace and acceptance, it's like I don't, it's like some part of me doesn't know how to exist that way and wants to just go back to what I've known for so long, or lived for so long, which is a little more drama, a little more seeking, trying to solve every issue from the past and so on. So it's so funny that you bring that up because that was probably somewhere in my vibration.
It is not just you, my child. I think that there are a lot of people watching this that will resonate with that on some capacity and have many, many questions about that. And I would be happy to explore this further if you have any additional questions. But if this is a topic that there is much more conversation that is required around this, I would be happy to continue it.
No, I think you've really already pointed to the main kind of fact of the matter, which is it's so interesting being a human. And I think especially those of us who are, we could say, on the spiritual path, or seeking or trying to evolve our inner self. And I thought about this too lately. It's kind of hit me. I think it's so easy to come to believe that it is about, I don't know, fixing everything or coming into this perfect, some kind of perfection or idealism. And yet recently I've been questioning this um kind of belief, or this aim of some kind of idealistic existence here on earth, at least here on earth. Like perhaps this exists elsewhere, and I don't know, perhaps it's meant for earth at some point. But yeah, this kind of acceptance as life is, acceptance as we are, trusting that the current state of wherever one is or wherever we are. So, and anyway, you already touched upon it, but
May
it's so
I
interesting that
may
you
I add
bring it up.
something to this conversation?
Yes.
I would like to speak very, very briefly about the topic of ascension because I feel like there is a subcontext here with that.
Mm-hmm.
There is a desire amongst humanity to ascend to a higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for this is because there is a part of human consciousness that desires a different experience of itself. When you ascend to a higher consciousness, your experience of yourself will be different.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not better. It is just a desire that you hold inside of you, mostly at a subconscious level.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a soul, you are always looking to experience yourself in a new way. And you have experienced yourself on earth as a human being in the third dimension for a very long time, and you seek a different experience. And this is why there is so much talk of ascension happening on earth, is because many of you sense that we are headed in that direction. But it is not something that is necessarily better than what you are currently experiencing. It is just different. And on a soul perspective, that is why you seek it. You seek a difference in experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of you are seeking that different experience sooner than others.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why we are
Mm-hmm.
ascending, is because many of you are choosing a different experience of yourself.
Okay.
But it is not necessarily something that is better than the experience that you're having. And those of you who are not ready for this new experience, it doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you less than. It doesn't make you incapable. It just means that you, on a soul level, are not ready yet. You are all experiencing life in different ways at different levels of experience. Many of you are older than others. Some of you have never been on earth before, and to expect you to desire something different is a lot to ask. And so I would like to put forth a message of understanding. When you see somebody who is struggling with their current reality, be patient with them. This is the experience that they are desiring at this time. And they will learn how to work through it when they are ready to, and when it is on a soul level what is desired. The chaos that you see in this world is an attempt of some souls to have a different experience and some souls who are not yet ready for it. And this is the clashing of different perspectives and different desires that you are witnessing unfold before you. That is all that it is. And some of you have grown frustrated with those who are not yet ready. And I would like to ask you and reflect back to you, what is that showing you within yourself where you are not ready?
Wow. Yeah. Yes. Because I guess you could say the outside is always a reflection of what we're feeling on the inside.
Yes, that is why you are here, is to be a mirror for each other and to learn and grow together. You are not alone in this world. Oftentimes, I know that you feel very alone. And I'm not just speaking with you, my child. I'm speaking to all those who are watching, that all of you feel like you are walking your path and you are very much isolated and alone. But I would like to remind you that that is simply an illusion of your experience. And that is part of what you signed up for, is to feel the sense of separation, because it is a different experience than that of one that you are used to feeling. And so, how can you recognize this discomfort for what it is, which is just a part of you sensing an experience that you have not yet accepted,
Mm-hmm.
and just allowing patience with yourself within that.
Mhm. Was very helpful and insightful. Thank you. Um, I'm actually, it's so funny. This next topic, so this is a completely separate topic. Um, it's funny. It's probably something that some part of me is like, no, don't ask that. Don't like, because it's too material or too earthly, perhaps we could say. But you know what? I think a lot of people resonate with this topic, and I would love your insight onto. So the topic is abundance, and I would say like financial abundance, and um, like all is well. But I'm just, as you watch us humans, as you feel into us humans, like it's obviously a focus in our lives. It's a topic that touches pretty much all of humanity. There's a lot out there that says we can create as much abundance in our lives as we want or desire. It's just obviously a matter of intention and focus and believing it truly, not just as a thought, not just only thought, or trying to deceive ourselves. Yeah, like what is your outlook on the idea of abundance, financial abundance, how our relationship to it. Um, yeah.
Abundance is not something that is created. Abundance is something that is realized.
So brilliant.
Everything is abundant.
Yes.
Fear is abundant when it's
Hmm.
there in abundance.
Right.
Money is abundant when it is there in abundance. And
Hmm.
so the question becomes, if I do not feel that I have enough of the thing that I require more of, where am I seeing lack where there isn't any? And how can I shift my focus to call in more of what I desire? And the two go hand in hand. When you feel a sense of lack, it is because you are misinterpreting what is actually there.
Hmm.
And I understand this desire of the human to want more of certain things and less of others. And I think that that is the very place that you are getting caught up, is that more of one thing will feel better and less of another will feel better or different than it does now. And that is a
Hmm.
misunderstanding that you are operating under that is then creating the very experience you are having. Who is to say that having less fear will feel better? I know that can be difficult to understand, but
Hmm.
you don't know what it's going to feel like until you choose to feel something different.
Hmm.
Who's to say that having more money is going to feel better? And so when you desire more money, it's because you are operating under the illusion that you are experiencing lack of it. And all you're seeing is lack of it all over. And you are feeling lack within you. And it is not wrong to want more money. More money makes life easier on this planet. But what happens is the human desires more money because they are feeling lack. And so they go looking for more money and operating under a feeling in observation and an experience of lack. And it is not possible to have more of something if you're always feeling in lack of it. It just, they
Hmm.
are not, it is not possible to have both at the same time.
Right.
And so the question then becomes, how can I feel in a full abundance? How can I see an abundance of lack, so to speak? All of the lack that I'm feeling right now, I am so abundant in it. And recognize that the truth is that you are full of abundance.
Right.
And then feel the safety within that experience. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, How can I make more money without feeling the current lack of it? And that shifts the experience internally from that of lack to that of abundance. And that energy, frequency, and vibration of abundance fills you and channels the action that you will then take to create money. And I know that this can feel intangible. And you are asking yourself, what difference does it make what I'm feeling when I'm going out and working? I ask you in return, what you are experiencing every minute of every single day creates your reality. When you desire to go out and make money, and you are constantly filled with this fear of not having enough of it, you will never have enough of it, regardless of how much you make. And you will always feel in lack and under stress to create more. You will never feel safe enough. When you go out and make money, feeling completely at ease with the way things are, it doesn't matter how much comes in. You will feel grateful for it. You will feel grateful regardless. And your whole experience of making money and earning money and creating more money will be completely different. And perhaps insight will drop in that you didn't have access to before, that will create opportunity that wasn't there before to bring in even more.
Thank you.
I will add one more thing to this because I believe this is a conversation that will require additional insight. For the human being, safety is directly attached to money. The more money I have, the more safe I feel. But that is not true. How many of you have enough money but don't feel safe within that? And so when you can begin to see the separation between how you feel and what you actually have, and that how you feel is separate from what you have, you can begin to see the dissonance with which you have been living under. Because it doesn't matter what you have if you don't feel safe. And if safety is really what you desire, then it doesn't matter how much more money you make. You will never change the experience you are having. And so for some of you, you might very well need more money, but this conversation still applies to you. At the end of the day, safety is what you are needing most. And you're believing that money is going to provide that for you. But look to those who have it in abundance and who still feel unsafe and lacking in something. How can you create the experience that you desire? And the experience is something that you are feeling inside of yourself that you are believing something outside of you is going to give you, but that is an illusion that your mind is creating for you. Create the experience that you desire first within you, and then allow the world to reflect back to you options, opportunities, and insights where you can bring that feeling that you are feeling inside of you into physical awareness. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And it aligns with a lot of the information, which is very consistent, that is available to us, that we have to feel it within ourselves first. It
I,
all begins within
I would like
ourselves.
to add one more thing coming back to this ascension experience that we talk about often. It seems to be a topic of that is at the forefront for many of you. As our consciousness ascends, what is desired within your physical world will no longer feel resonant to you. And if ascension is something that you truly desire, where are you still holding attachments to things in the physical?
Mhm.
And that does not mean living in a ditch somewhere is what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to recognize where you are still attaching things outside of you to how you are feeling internally.
Mm, mhm, mhm.
Where
Uh,
can you begin to separate
yes.
the two? And notice that your internal experience is separate from that which happens outside of you, and that what is outside of you is not necessarily needed.
Mhm. Yeah, that resonates. That's again another great point to contemplate. Is there anything else you want to add to that topic or
There will be plenty more to come in time, but I am feeling complete on that for now.
okay, thank you so much. Um, then I just have one last question, and it's simply, do humans take life too seriously?
Yes and no. For you, your experience is very real. And so for us to put on you that you should be experiencing it in a different way would not be fair to you, because what you are experiencing is very real. And so for me to ask you to take it less seriously, that would be my bias.
Mhm.
And so I understand your perspective where it's all just one lifetime of many lifetimes and one experience that I am having for my own betterment. And why am I taking it so seriously when it doesn't need to be so serious? But perhaps taking it seriously is what you came here to do. Perhaps from time to time, you do need to take it seriously so that you can be fully present in the experience and learn something from it. And so I guess what I would like to reflect back to you is be present in the experience that you're having. And if you catch yourself being sucked into an experience of negativity, an experience where it's feeling very vulnerable and real and the suffering is apparent, allow yourself to have that experience. And then in the next moment, maybe you'll be able to laugh at it, or maybe it will take a very long time before you can do that. But go at your own pace. Don't put so much pressure on yourself to control it and formulate it into any which way. Take it day by day. And more than anything else, I want you to know that it is all for you, regardless of what happens. And if you want to take it seriously, that is your prerogative to do so, and that is not wrong of you. And if you want to make light of it, go ahead, that is for you as well. There is no right and wrong, good or bad. It is your experience to have and feel within it whatever you desire to in the moment.
Thank you. That was very, very loving wholesome answer. And I think that's what so many souls on this earth actually need. Um, are these more spacious responses, um, kind of this acceptance of the self and the experience, which, yeah, I think just makes us, like you said, like we like to formulate. I know I've done that. Um, it's always like this, yeah, exactly, almost like creating this, constantly trying to create this formula in my head for the future of how I should be or behave or act, or, and yet we can be a lot gentler with ourselves and our reality and our experience, and accepting it. So thank you so much for that answer.
You're welcome. Is there anything else that I can do for you today?
No, no, that was, you have answered all my questions so lovingly with an open heart, and I deeply appreciate that. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome, my child, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity today. I would like to do more of these when you are available to. I think it's very apropos for this time, and I think that there are many people watching this that will receive a lot from this communication today. Thank you so much for your time, and I will be in touch with you soon.
Thank you.
My eyes are watering like crazy. Hi.
It's so funny. It's like you're there and now like you're there the whole time, but it's like, oh, you're back now.
I feel very ungrounded. I just need a second. I was like
Yeah.
really pushed back. Um, yeah, so just to give you like a little bit of inside baseball, like I can feel them come in, and then it's almost like I think a part of me steps out, and then the rest of me is like pushed back. So I'm like somewhere back here in my consciousness, and they're up here, and like I'm witnessing them talk, but it's like, when you're talking, it's almost like your brain is slightly anticipating what you're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
can't do that because I don't know what they're going to say. So it's like,
Okay.
I really have to surrender. And it's just like I'm hearing it as it's coming out of my mouth.
Wow.
But sometimes I can get a sense of where the conversation is going based on what you're asking and like what information they want to bring forward. Or sometimes I can feel them struggling with the words. 'Cause like they're showing me like the part where you were asking about disease, and
Mm-hmm.
I could feel like I could see an image and they were trying to describe the image, but I think that they were trying to use my frame of reference to describe it. And so they were trying to figure out, okay, what words does she know that we can use to describe that? So
Mm-hmm.
that's always really interesting.
No, it was a great conversation. It
Yeah.
was yeah, yeah, no, very, I always find what resonates with me when it comes to channeled information is when you can feel that it's like genuine and loving and open,
Yeah.
like the answers, and like, so there's, it's just like this one book that has resonated with me in my life so deeply. Of course, I love if anybody's interested, but it's, that's what I got from that. It's just the whole book, like there's no like, oh, you have to do it this way, or you should live this way, or you have to, and this is the only way that you're gonna be like an enlightened soul, or like there was none of that. It was just this consistent, everything came across so lovingly, so like so wholesome, and I felt the same when this archangel was responding. So, and there were lots, I enjoyed some of the answers because, is it a he? Kind of, yeah,
I think
yeah,
I sense a
like
masculine energy.
masculine energy.
I get the feeling that they don't have gender.
Yeah, but I'll say he since
Yeah.
it's like a masculine energy.
Yeah.
So that he or it that it really gave some good answers that made me think a little differently. That
Yeah.
wasn't what I was expecting, but it's great because it was actually like, oh yeah, that's absolutely another way that this could be perceived.
Yeah.
And again, like I think as humans and the information that we're kind of seeking, and sometimes we tend to, I think, seek in a certain direction,
Yeah.
and then we lose, or like we, so then we think like this is the one truth, or this is the way to see it, and
Right.
this obviously has to be like the answer. And yet he brought in some different ways of looking at things, which I really liked. So yeah, it was a
Yeah.
great
There's
practice.
always this like neutrality, right?
Yes. And
It's
then I think
always,
it's genuine. That's when I
yeah.
feel like that the channeling is, I've heard channels before where they get very specific and they
Yeah.
start to judge things, and you literally start to feel like, well, I'm pretty good at like just cutting it off because I it does not resonate.
Yeah.
But I feel like that comes from, not from the higher realms. I think that comes from something, perhaps a lot of the personal
Yeah.
biases of the channeler coming through, in my opinion.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I've noticed that the messages that really resonate for me tend to have this like neutrality to it.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, we're always searching, like, okay, what's the truth though? Like, what is the truth? And there is not one.
And that's exactly, it's a spaciousness. They provide a spaciousness to like our existence,
Yeah.
which is actually so loving. How could anything be more loving than complete acceptance and allowance of what is? And that's what unconditional love is. And it's so funny. I think we just, and that has hit me before, but it hasn't stuck,
Yeah.
So I've had those moments of those realizations, but then I think what we're more used to is that there is one truth, there is
Yeah.
one way, there must be one ultimate, oh hallelujah, way of living on this
Yeah.
planet. And there's only one way to get there, and it's through only these emotions and these vibrations. And so I think that's, like, not unfortunately, I think that's just how we tend to take in information, especially during our initial stages of seeking, until that starts to fall away. But ultimately, I think as we continue to evolve, it's just, we start to realize it's a spaciousness. It is something unconditional and undefined, and that's where the beauty of it
Yeah.
is this, okay, yes, there's this and there's this, and some days it's this and some days it's this. And I and I think when we think it has to be one specific thing, that creates suffering.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's our opinions of what should be, or our interpretations of like our own expectations and the stories we create that creates our experience of suffering or of fear or whatever it is that we're feeling. And it's very challenging to open up your aperture a little bit when you're not used to doing that. But then as soon as they give you permission to, don't you feel like your nervous system just goes,
100%. A
yeah,
hundred. And it is about this, like, okay, yeah, it's like there's nothing actually more beautiful than spaciousness. And then it aligns completely with this, that the foundation of life, of the universe, of everything is unconditional love. Literally, like, let's everybody, like, can we all get like unconditional? Like, it loves all of itself in all its forms and all its expressions, including the dark. And which, but that's the thing, that's, at first everyone wants to push that away, and we still, like, I find there's still like moments where I really like want to resolve all that, right? Somehow within my
yeah,
own self, within others, within the world. But Archangel Sandalphon kind of, like, well, is that necessarily the whole point? Is can there not be peace within just accepting what is, like all these, and I believe the greatest nuggets of truth lie within that, this great acceptance of ourselves and the world as it is, and seeing the beauty in all its, like, aspects and angles. And obviously there are very difficult things on this planet. And I'm not, but it's so, yeah, I think it's just taking our mind there. We're like, okay, can we see it all from this different perspective that maybe we haven't contemplated? And maybe a lot of people would be like, that's not right. There's
Yeah.
that too, right?
Yeah.
Because when you start to accept darkness, people are like, are you insane? How
Yeah.
can you, like, you must have no heart? But that's not the truth.
Yeah.
That's not what that means. But you need that obviously has to come through an internal experience to really understand what someone might mean by like an acceptance of the darkness.
Right.
But then that's
Yeah.
all good too. And then it's coming to accept that not everyone is gonna feel that. So it's just
Layers on layers. Yeah. 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 Thank you so
thank you.
much.
That was really great. That was I think there was a lot of good in that
Yeah.
conversation that would resonate with many people. And
No,
it's so beautiful. Like, these kinds of I enjoyed that 'cause I think like you want to have these candid kind of like conversations where or opportunities to ask really these questions. I think we always like are kind of on in the back of our minds, like we've heard this here, we've heard that there, and then and just to bring it up and see what further information we can receive, right, to expand our
yeah.
understanding. So it
You
was
asked fantastic questions, and I love doing this stuff because I feel like you can't go around asking some of these questions in day-to-day life because they're seen as taboo. But then we all have those questions at the back of our head. And so let's just open up the conversation a little bit in an unbiased, neutral, loving way and just
mhm,
ask.
yeah,
And it doesn't matter if we don't feel resonant with the answer or we don't connect with that message or our truth is different. It's just a conversation.
exactly. Exactly. It's just a
Yeah.
conversation. And can we all accept that too? And I think
Yeah.
within myself, like I know that's probably something that I really have to allow myself to open up to. It's just like everyone can have their conversation, right?
Yeah.
And this applies just to the regular world too, where people are absolutely at each other's throats because no one wants the other to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And that again, it creates resistance, and I believe that what we resist does persist, right?
Yeah.
If we all just kind of like, okay, you have it cool, you have that conversation, we'll have this conversation. And I don't know, it's like this ease or flow is, I think, able to come through that in grace when we allow things to kind of be and be experienced. And but that's a lot to look into ourselves too. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm honest, like there's definitely, you come across conversations you immediately judge and you're like,
Yeah.
no way, like
Yeah.
that's not right, like you can't
Yeah.
say that, or
Yeah.
that's terrible, how can you see something that way? But really, okay, bring it back, like
Uh,
it's just a conversation occurring.
yeah.
And that, and the other side would see, probably you think you're talking truth, and then but they don't perceive it that way, right? But don't you want to be able to speak your own truth, right? So it's, yes, it's coming this greater acceptance of it all, and allowing and flowing in life. And like right now it's just a lot of
Yeah.
this, and I think we're all feeling it.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to, but there's so much potential for growth in it, so that I can see that. Like, I'm just sure little sparks of light are, you know
Yeah.
manifesting in people's lives. There's great potential for growth and expansion in all of this too. And that's, I think, the earth life.
I think I'm just excited to be able to have more of these conversations because for so long I had all these questions. I didn't know who to ask them to. You know what I mean? Like no one wanted to
Yeah.
talk about this with me, but I had a lot of questions. Like why am I suffering so much?
Yeah.
Like why am I so upset all the time? Why is everyone so angry? Like what is the point of all of
Hmm.
this? And so now that I have this outlet where we can kind of ask these deeper questions and have like an open-ended, compassionate, unbiased conversation around it. I just think that in of itself is powerful. And I'm really grateful to be able to do that. And I'm so grateful for you. You asked such fantastic questions. There were a few times where you asked a question and I could feel myself being like, I don't know the answer to that. And then the answer just started coming out and I was like, oh yeah, I don't have to answer that. There's still that happening like inside of me
Hmm.
where I could feel like he just would say no or yes. And I was like, oh, I guess that's the answer.
Yeah.
And so there's still this like detached part of me that's like, I don't know the answer to that.
No,
So
that's
that,
so incredible what you're
yeah,
doing. And of course, just with time, as you do it more, I
yeah,
imagine it just becomes more natural, just the
yeah,
process and how it flows through. But it's so I think I find it so fascinating to be able to connect to that greater wisdom that is all part of us.
yeah,
It's where we exist within it, all of us. But of course, it's just in our experience here on Earth, many don't realize that that's their potential, and that's just part of the experience of forgetting. But it's so fun because it's part of the process of remembering,
right.
and it's exciting. I
Yeah.
find this so
I
exciting.
think it's so exciting too. And I'm really excited to be able to share it with you and with everybody as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Amanda. And I'm sure the work you do is definitely providing, help and insight to people who are ready for it.
Yeah.
And that's
And me
important. This
too.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
And it is like this is the uplifting stuff. This is what brings us
Yeah.
back to our hearts. This is what brings us back to kind of greater I think tolerance overall of just our everything, ourselves, acceptance, others, the world. And that's important. I think that is slowly what will also bring that, because I was talking about kind of world peace or whatever. And of course, I don't know if again, it's not about some ideal, I think, either, but just this greater ease in the world, right? That people find this greater ease within themselves.
Yeah.
And guess what? Then it expands out.
Yeah.
Because when you feel good, you kind of exude that.
Yeah.
And then it's contagious, right? So
Yeah.
you're part of that process now.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's
and
amazing.
as are you. We all are, right?
We all are in our own ways. And
Yeah.
that I love that too. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
And that's Archangel Sandalphon was, like where are we judging and why are we saying some are not perhaps on a path or something, but everyone is, and
Yeah.
everyone is. I've heard that before too, that really everyone, even the ones we perhaps perceive are
Yeah.
not on a path, but we don't know that. and
Right.
and I can absolutely see again in my moments of becoming more centered,
Yep.
that everyone plays their role and
Yeah.
everyone has a purpose and a reason for where they are and why they're there. And so yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this, Marianne. This was really fun. You asked some fantastic questions, and I think that people will get a lot out of watching this. And so I'm going to end it here. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone, so much for watching, and maybe we'll do this again when Marianne has had time to process this and come up with the new list of stuff, and
Exactly.
we can pick their brains a little bit more.
Sounds good. Thank you, Amanda.